Hi there, Deliverooers. Emil here from Performance by Design with a little check-in video setting you up for our sessions together in a week or so's time. Looking forward to this session. We're going to take you through a really simple and practical tool that you can implement into your standing meetings to really help ensure that your remote teams don't feel disconnected and isolated. So a quick overview of PBD, then a quick overview of what's going to happen in the sessions, okay? For many of you, you would have met Paul Ruse through one of our webinars recently where he would have introduced you to the Performance by Design system, where we don't leave your culture to chance. We believe culture is extremely important for the success and especially the sustainable impact of any organisation. It really holds up everything we do because it's about behaviour and it's about internal relationships, okay? So at the end of the day, our mission at Performance by Design is to really help build high-performing cultures by helping role model leaders bring team behaviours to life. So the first hat we'd like you to wear is looking at yourself as a leader. You must look at yourself as a role model. Great leaders are role models and they display and live the behaviours of any given team's culture code. Love this document, looks fantastic. Lots of great stuff in it. And we're going to be able to bring the code to life, if you will, through these performance connections that we're going to take you through in our sessions in a week or so's time. Won't bore you with who we work with, but as you know, professional sport, corporate sector, industry agnostic. We've got the four partners in Paul Ruse, Jared Murphy, who's a real stalwart of the high performance space. He helped the Geelong Cats win a number of premierships in their golden era. Warren Everett was actually a participant of our program many years ago as he was exiting his marketing company based out of Boston, but working out of Melbourne. And I've been involved with this work for nearly 10 years now myself. Again, first as a participant under the tutelage of Jared, and now as a partner of Performance by Design with these three other legends. So just going through some fundamentals that are important in preparation for the session. First and foremost, we must look at everything as being about performance. Our model started in professional sports, so as you can imagine, everything is about performance. So we're often helping teams understand is what they are doing, getting them where they want to go. And if not, we must stop and make a change, okay? And our performance connection tool will help that in a little and often fashion, okay? Culture is about behavior. It's about the behaviors we accept and reward of each other, which is why it's really important that when we go through this process of conducting performance connections at the beginning of our meetings, we really lean on the behaviors and the values within your culture code. We'll talk about that in the session as well, okay? We talk about leadership being role modeling, which I touched on before, and really in the great teams that we work with, everyone feels they are a leader, you know, and we would have you consider that it's really about everyone feeling and being empowered to consider themselves as a leader, because that term you often hear about team, there's no I in team, we challenge that because really each team is just a group of individuals. So it's about how do we as individuals build structures and systems and the safety to become a great team together, because literally we are really a group of individuals at the end of the day. And all the great teams that we work with, what they do really well is they build safety. They build psychological safety to have honest conversations with each other. Open and honest conversations. Again, the Performance Connections tool is designed to really bring real talk to life and create that safety. And we know in the great teams, from a research and a study perspective, they have a really high ratio of telling each other what they're doing well, right? Catching the good is a comment we'll often refer and push teams to do. Catch the good. When you see a mate do something well, let them know. And it goes back to really building culture. If you see something positive, reward it. If you see something negative, challenge it. And if you're not sure, ask. So again, performance connections have been designed to really build safety so that we can practice real talk and really develop that ratio of 4-to-1 and avoid that you know, constantly talking about what's not working. Truth be told, you know, most people do most things right most of the time. Where there's dysfunction and poor performance and a dysfunctional culture is often where people don't actually know what they're doing well. They only really get told about what they're not doing well. So performance connections are really designed to help build that recognition system inside of your organization, that accountability and recognition. And when we talk about real talk, it really has to be predicated on the need and the want and desire to improve. That's where it comes from. If we're going to have an honest conversation with each other, it's about getting better. And we're having that conversation because we care about each other and the team. That's a very simple slide, but it's very important as we take any team through the PBD system, okay? And at the end of the day, real talk's a learned skill. Therefore, you can practice it, okay? And knowing Ed as we do now, this is definitely Ed. I need someone that laughs at all of my jokes, you know, honest feedback. There's a little dig for you, Ed, there, mate. But again, the point here is that feedback is a learned skill. Real talk is a learned skill. And, you know, we were having a chat the other day with one of our clients, and we're talking about the fact that it's getting easier in their organization, but it's never often easy to have a tough conversation, one that sort of needs to be talking about the things that aren't working. But the reality is the more we practice it, the better we get at it, okay? It becomes easier, but often the tougher ones never become really that easy, because when we think about psychological safety, which is really, which enables real talk, the interesting point is that emotional and physical pain to the brain is the same. The way the brain computes pain, both physically and emotionally, is exactly the same. So a broken heart to the brain is much the same as being in a severe car crash. It's really, it makes it really bring to light as you're leaning into a tough conversation, and one where we need to talk about what's potentially not working. Those feelings of, oh, I don't want to say it. That's the brain saying don't, because it's computing the same information as physical pain, okay? But again, the more we practice, the better we get at it. And we also know that empathy and vulnerability play a big role in enabling real talk. And empathy being that feeling of being understood and heard, and vulnerability being that ability to put your thoughts on the table without the feelings of being ridiculed or deemed silly or whatever that might be. So these are neurological magnets. They promote and allow us to engage in open dialogue and real talk with our teammates. So they play a really big part in building high-performing cultures. And again, performance connections have been designed to enable empathy and vulnerability, which ultimately are big trust builders, okay? When we can have honest conversations, when we do feel heard, when we do know when our voice is being put on the table, if you will, we're going to be listened to and not feel silly or deemed stupid, it does build trust. And that really is the cornerstone and foundation of any great team, any great relationship as well. Because at the end of the day, we're big believers that the strength of your internal relationships have a big say on driving your external results, okay? The teams that have gone through COVID and are coming out the other side are often the ones that already had strong internal relationships. We often think about, you know, building relationships with our clients, and we get more business in by building great relationships with the outside world. We're challenging teams to consider, well, really what drives you from a long-term perspective is often the strength of your internal relationships, okay? So that's just a high-level overview of the PBD, like foundational principles, we call them, okay? Now, through COVID, we've got a couple of things, a couple of big threats to performance through this really interesting time in our, I guess, society and life, particularly in Melbourne. You know, the feelings of isolation and disconnection. We are social beings. We do produce better results. We are smarter and stronger together. Research shows us very clearly that. Now, we are remote, but we don't have to be isolated. We don't have to be disconnected. There are ways to ensure that we remain connected and we continually put those dollars in those metaphorical trust bank and build those strong internal relationships. The other threat is that people coming into meetings have an expectation of developing and building and feeling more connected, yet walking away feeling more disconnected, okay? And that often comes from not being able to be heard. Carl Jung, sort of one of the grandfathers of psychometric profiling, talks about loneliness not coming from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Really interesting, isn't it? Okay, so we want to avoid that expectation reality gap of our team members coming into meetings and walking away feeling more disconnected when they came in for connection, and performance connections are designed to help that as well. The other big threat, and maybe the biggest is that people withhold information. Right now, as leaders, we need all the information. We need to know exactly what's happening at any given time so we as leaders can make the best decisions. And that often comes from feeling lack of safety and insecurity, you know, feeling insecure about your position, potentially your job. And under pressure, we tend to often either withhold information or give too much. But there's a real threat that as leaders, we're not getting information from our team, that we need to make the best decisions for the betterment of that team. So performance connections. Performance connections are a tool that we created many moons ago. It's a very simple and practical structure integrated into existing meetings at the start, okay? They are designed to enable the psychological safety to practice real talk. And the beautiful thing about them is they're also designed for you to speak through your code, okay? You bring your behaviors to life by rewarding and recognizing each other through these behaviors. So I'll talk more about that in the training, but we're referring to your Deliveroo culture code a lot in the training, okay? And that psychological safety piece is really big. Our job as leaders is to create an environment for other people to perform, our team members to perform, okay? Furthermore, performance connections, or as we nickname them, PC reps, performance connection repetitions, ensure everyone is heard. They allow us as leaders to identify patterns of what's actually going on, which is so key to making decisions. And they also empower us to make decisions as a team. One of the goals we have for any organization we work with is to build a self-managing team. And we can only do that by empowering people to practice and have real talk with their teammates, both recognizing what's going well and challenging what's not going well from a behaviors perspective, but also empower decision-making. We don't want ourselves as leaders to be consistently called upon to be in every decision made, okay? So that's the recap, ladies and gentlemen. Look forward to the session with you all in the coming weeks, and we will see you soon at Performance by Design.